By every measurable standard, you should be fine. You have more food, more medicine, more entertainment, more opportunity than any human being who has ever lived. You can speak to anyone instantly and learn anything in an afternoon. And yet, depression is at record levels. Loneliness is called an epidemic. Suicide rates in the wealthiest countries are climbing. People with everything report feeling nothing. So something is wrong, not with your circumstances, but with something deeper. Something comfort and progress cannot reach. Maybe this is not an accident. Perhaps the values our modern world was built on have quietly produced this emptiness as a side effect. And strangely, this is something philosophy has been warning us about for a very long time. To understand where we are, you have to understand the bet the modern world placed. Roughly 300 years ago, Western civilization made a collective decision. The path forward was science over tradition, reason over faith, individual freedom over inherited meaning, and material progress over spiritual depth. These were not unreasonable choices given what came before: centuries of religious war, superstition, feudal hierarchy, and poverty that crushed most human beings into lives with no horizon. So the modern world pushed back. Reason built its institutions. Medicine, technology, and democratic governance developed. The old structures that told people what to believe and value were dismantled and replaced with freedom and the radical idea that the individual could determine their own meaning. Materially, it worked. Standards of living rose. Life expectancy doubled. Options multiplied. The floor was raised for billions. But the modern world made a silent assumption. It assumed that once you solved material conditions, once you removed suffering, scarcity, and external constraint, human beings would naturally flourish. That meaning would appear once comfort was secured. That assumption has proven catastrophically wrong, because modernity also removed the very structures that had always oriented human life towards something larger than itself. It replaced them with options, with stimulation, with the instruction to go and find yourself. More advancement produced more options and more chaos, with no shared truth to navigate it. And more comfort produced more idleness, where nothing feels urgent because nothing feels truly necessary. This is the world we inherited. Two philosophers, writing in different centuries, looked at it with open eyes and refused to offer comfort. Søren Kierkegaard was a 19th century Danish philosopher writing before the full flowering of the modern project, but he could already see where it was heading. Kierkegaard's central diagnosis was despair, a specific condition he considered nearly universal, the condition of being fundamentally misaligned with your own self, living a life that is not truly yours, organized around things that do not ultimately reach you. He observed that most people live on the aesthetic plane, a life built around sensation, stimulation, the management of boredom through novelty. You find something exciting, pursue it. It satisfies you briefly, then fades, and now you need the next new thing. The cycle repeats. That should sound familiar. The entire architecture of modern consumer life is built on this loop. The scroll, the purchase, the hollow feeling afterward you try not to examine. Kierkegaard's point was not that this life is dramatically painful. It works just well enough to keep you occupied until the end, and then the end arrives, and you realize you were sedated rather than alive. The anxiety modern people feel, that low-grade dissatisfaction that follows you into good circumstances, that sense something is missing, Kierkegaard would say that is not a symptom to be treated. That is the most honest signal your inner life can send. The part of you that knows the aesthetic life is not enough, refusing to be silenced. But most people's response is simply to increase the dosage of distraction. More entertainment, achievement, consumption. But the anxiety returns and the dosage increases. The self that is trying to speak gets buried a little deeper each time. Kierkegaard saw the modern world producing human beings who were outwardly fine and inwardly disappearing. People performing a life rather than living one. He saw no external force, no progress, and no material improvement that could solve a problem located this deep inside the person. If Kierkegaard diagnosed the internal crisis, Albert Camus looked outward, at the universe itself. Camus wrote in the 20th century, after 2 world wars finished dismantling whatever remained of civilizational certainty. His central idea, the absurd, is one of the most unflinching in philosophy. The absurd is not a feeling, it is a collision. On one side, the human being, the creature that cannot stop demanding meaning. We need things to make sense, to add up, to point somewhere. It is part of what we are. On the other side, the universe, completely, utterly, and permanently silent in response to that need. We ask, but nothing answers. That gap between the human hunger for meaning and the world's absolute indifference is the absurd. It is not a problem progress will fix. It is the permanent condition of being conscious in an unconscious universe. Now apply this to the modern world. Traditional societies had religion and shared narrative to paper over this gap. They had stories that told people where they came from, what they owed each other, and what waited beyond death. You could dispute their truth, but you cannot dispute what they provided. An orientation, a sense that the individual life was embedded in something larger. The modern world dismantled those stories. It called them superstition and replaced them with science, which is good at describing how the universe works and silent on why any of it matters. It offered individual freedom, which tells you that you can choose your own meaning without telling you how or guaranteeing that meaning will hold. So modern people find themselves in the exact position Camus described, standing in a world that will not answer them, equipped with the freedom to ask any question and receiving nothing back but silence. The absurd, in Camus' view, is not occasionally visited. It is the water modern people swim in every day, the purposelessness underneath the busyness, the meaninglessness that surfaces every time you stop moving long enough to feel it. Camus offered something important, but not comfort. He refused to say meaning would be found, or the silence would break, or the absurd could be resolved. He said it cannot. The universe is not going to explain itself. This is where we hit the floor of the modern crisis. Kierkegaard showed us the interior collapse. Camus showed us the exterior void. Both describe the same person. Given everything the modern world promised and standing in the middle of it, asking a question nothing around them can answer. That person needs something. Not more options or stimulation, but something entirely different. At this point, something becomes unavoidable. Meaning must still be found, because a life built entirely on freedom without direction does not remain neutral. It begins to feel empty. Through a sense of drift, a lack of orientation, the feeling that time is passing but life is not forming into anything coherent. Eventually, this creates an internal confrontation, a moment where the individual starts to face the chaos within and outside. What am I doing with my life? And is it becoming something I can stand behind? Few people have been forced to face that question more brutally than Viktor Frankl. He did not theorize about suffering from a comfortable study. Survivor of 4 Nazi concentration camps, he watched people he loved die. His manuscript, his freedom, nearly everything was lost, and he lived inside conditions designed to destroy the self. Inside that experience, he made an observation that changed his life's work. The people who survived psychologically were not always the physically strongest. They were the ones who had a why, something they were oriented toward, a person they were living for, a work they needed to finish. Frankl concluded the deepest human drive is not pleasure or power, but meaning. The need to feel your existence is pointed towards something that matters beyond your own survival. His diagnosis of the modern world was precise. He called it the existential vacuum, the widespread feeling of inner emptiness resulting not from poverty, but from the absence of meaning. The person who has secured all material needs and still feels something fundamentally missing. He saw it everywhere and sees it more clearly now than ever. But here Frankl makes a turn that changes everything. Meaning, he said, is not something you find by looking for it. It is something you forge through what you give to the world, what you experience and who you love, and the attitude you take towards suffering that should not be avoided. That last part is the most radical. The modern world told you suffering is the enemy of the good life. Frankl, who had seen suffering most cannot imagine, said that suffering without meaning destroys a person. But suffering faced and carried with dignity can become the axis around which a meaningful life is built. Meaning cannot be thought into existence nor consumed into being. It is found as a byproduct of living for something beyond yourself. Once you have it, once your life is genuinely oriented towards something that asks something of you, the silence Camus described does not disappear, but it stops being unbearable, because you are no longer waiting for the universe to answer. You are too busy answering the call of your own commitments. This is the turn, from asking what life owes you to asking what you owe life. But Frankl leaves one question hanging. What does a life actually look like once you've made that turn? For that answer, we have to go back further, to the oldest voice in this conversation, the one who gave us the destination. 2,500 years ago, Aristotle asked the question every philosopher since has been circling. What does it mean to live well? His answer was a single word: eudaimonia, usually translated as happiness, but that translation loses almost everything. Aristotle did not mean a feeling or a score on a well-being index. Eudaimonia was the activity of the soul in accordance with its highest capacities. What happens when a human being is genuinely, fully, excellently themselves, living in alignment with what they most deeply are, exercising their highest capabilities, oriented towards something worthy of a human life. It was not a destination, but a practice, a way of inhabiting your existence rather than enduring it. Aristotle drew a distinction the modern world has almost erased: the distinction between pleasure and flourishing. These are not the same. You can live a life of considerable pleasure and not flourish at all. And you can live a life of genuine difficulty, challenge, sacrifice, struggle, and flourish completely because you are building something, becoming something, living towards something that exercises the best of what you are. He believed human beings have a nature, and the good life is the life lived in accordance with that nature. A life of reason and of genuine virtue. Deep relationships that ask something of you. Contribution beyond the self, to family, to community, to something that outlasts you. And striving toward excellence, not for applause or recognition, but because excellence is what a human life is actually built for. This is the final and most important thing the modern world forgot. It forgot that meaning is not what you find after solving your problems. Meaning is what makes the problems worth solving. It forgot that freedom without direction is not liberation, but disorientation. It forgot the goal was never comfort, the goal was flourishing. And those two things are not only different, they are worlds apart. So here's the arc. The modern world made a fatal error. Improving life's conditions is not the same as improving life itself. It gave freedom without purpose, replaced meaning with options, and delivered comfort that produced emptiness. Kierkegaard saw the person disappearing beneath their own distraction, alive on the outside, vanishing on the inside. Camus saw the universe offering nothing back to the human hunger for meaning. And then, Frankl, who had every reason to conclude life was meaningless, concluded the opposite. That meaning is forged in love, in the willingness to bear what must be borne and offer what only you can give. And Aristotle, long before any of them, said the good life was never about how you feel. It was always about what you become. Whether at the end you lived in accordance with the best of what a human being actually is. The modern world gave you everything, except a reason to use it well. That reason has never been out there. It has always had to come from you. Are you willing to stop waiting for an answer that is never coming and start living as if it already has?